I got just about 1:30, so I don't want to go that way. Or get started in just a minute. Is the guy out there with the flashy sign going like this still there, trying to get people to come in? Was he still out there when we? No? Yeah? No? I paid him. I took the money and ran. Okay. We'll go ahead and get started, I guess. My name is Raleigh Rhodes. I'm with CenturyLink Government Services. I work with the federal team. I was here last year and want to do a little base setting where if you're here to learn about DHS Enhanced Cybersecurity Program, you're in the right place. If you're not, this is the best place. It doesn't matter. Anybody here? I know you were here from University Pacific last year. Anybody else catch this presentation last year? Yes, no? Because this is going to be an update, evolution of. Okay. Just real quick, if I could do a little base setting with all of you. I know most of you, obviously within the IT security sector, but by show of hands and the cameras this way, so you don't have to participate if you don't want to. I'm assuming that all of you have in place right now within your security infrastructure, firewall, IDPS, DLP, all of the blocking and tackling fundamentals, correct? Okay, so ECS, or Enhanced Cyber Solution, is an augmentation to that. It is not a replacement for it. So I want to make that very clear up front. What this is a partnership, much like this entire symposium. It's a public-private partnership between CenturyLink and Department of Homeland Security. In a minute, I'll throw up a slide here to give you a little bit of the evolution of that piece. Did? Okay.
Did it turn off?
Yeah. Okay. Says it's on.
Try turning it on one more time.
Okay, says it's on, but the red light's on. But am I back? Okay. So I think I'll just hang on to this. Public-private partnership with DHS and CenturyLink, CSPs, and started about 2011. We went live with this particular program, and it's an information sharing program. It is a classified program, so a lot of my slides have been cut down to about 10. And if you work with your privacy, your lawyers, their lawyers, the other lawyers, the lawyers that they brought in for their lawyers. You can imagine in a classified program, our lawyers, their lawyers, the privacy people getting together. It started at about 40 slides, or down to about 10 of what we can share in a public format like this. So again, it is a classified program. What makes it different is that what makes it enhanced is the fact that the protections that we use and the protections that we deploy.
It cut out, so you just have to use the podium mic.
Oh, sorry. That's okay.
That is.
I was wondering if the noise fits in because, you know, I don't want to stand in one place one time and see that little red dot too many times. So nobody with a laser thing, I'll be jumping out the window. So it's a public-private partnership. Classify, we use sensitive and classified indicator signatures that are loaded into the instance to provide that extra protection. I was in a cyber symposium in Phoenix in July, which was a great place to be in July, and went through with the DoD, with state and local government, Maricopa County, some of the folks there, and we looked at and talked about some of the differences between what the federal mission is versus a state and local mission versus a commercial entity. And so I want to throw up one of these, this next slide, and ask of you, and I hope this gets to be, you know, just raise your hand, throw something, and to see most of you except there back in the corner with the spotlight on. If you have a question, just throw it out there. These are the threats to the computing environment: DDoS, data malfunctions, the OSI, corruption, malware, within the cloud, the hypervisor leakage. Is there anything up here? I'm sure there's others that you could probably put up here, but these are some of the core threats to the computing environment. Changes of key information in cloud to situational awareness. Do you understand what that one is? Got that? You guys have that happening now? Maybe? A little bit? In the federal environment, I work with DoD, I work with THS, DOJ, I work with the intel community. So what that is altering slightly the information just enough to change the battle space. Not enough maybe to even be noticeable. Okay, in public sector, maybe that's changing the numbers. Maybe that's changing, instead of 13 pallets, it's 3, or maybe it's 33. Something slight gets changed, and the delivery doesn't show up, something doesn't show up, the logistics get messed up. It's clouding the information space. Last one, people, whale spear fishing, DNS exploits. Two main factors. I believe Kevin from FireEye mentioned that the spear fishing, one of the #1 threats that all the way across the threat vector, everybody faces that. Everybody familiar with whale fishing? Yes, no, whale fishing? Who's the CSO, CTO, CEO, who owns the governor? The governor is the whale fish. So you and I would be spearfishing. Someone who's at the top of the food chain, so to speak, that's the whale. So if you can get, I think you heard Kevin say in the opening remarks yesterday that an email went out, presuming to be him, from him, and asking for this different information. That would be an example of a whale fish. There's somebody coming from the top that you would assume, hey, it's coming from the CEO of CenturyLink, I got to be able to trust it. Go in, click on the link, off we go. Are these pretty much representative of what you see in your threat environment now? Or is this off? Yes, no? You can go ahead and speak. You're not on mic. It's not the NFL thing.
I'm seeing programs that are allegedly supposed to be a program, and then when you go to install them, they're 150 malware.
So malware
attached.
So that's up to it.
And
what about you guys have seen the DDoS attacks, right? Everybody's seen the DDoS attack. Did anybody see the news this morning with the 64% of the companies have been hacked this year, up 10% from last year? And the FBI is warning. The FBI came out with a warning this morning that disgruntled employees are now taking the information and either holding it hostage or using it against their former employers. So, unlike physical security, I don't know if there's any of you in here who've done physical security before. I have. So I tend to look at some of the battle space. I tend to look at it from a physical standpoint. You always want to keep the threat outside the perimeter. In this case, most of the threats inside the perimeter. Right? So is your DDoS being launched by somebody inside your organization? Bouncing it. The interesting thing is, let me just show of hands, since maybe that's a little bit easier. Show of hands. Are these what you face today? Yeah.
I'd add like you said, the internal threat. I mean, we used to be a little more relaxed with how long something could be a little sketchy on the network, and we shut it down a lot faster now to include clients. And a lot of that's more automated than it used to be. And people don't like it, the customers, you know.
Right.
It's kind of good of the many outweigh that one person, you know what I mean?
Right. So it becomes a policy, people, and the people issue, the whales fishing. You know, we talked about we heard yesterday at the keynote, educating the workforce, what you should be clicking on, what you should not be clicking on. All of this, by the way, I lead an SE team, an engineering team for security, and so we we support the special programs, which are the classified programs. We get to play with all the cool tools or build them, and so we get to try to figure out how do we get around a lot of this, or at least block it, figure out who's trying to do it. One thing that's very, very difficult, as you point out, is the people component. And so I would add to this, what about BYOD? Here's a unique one that I didn't think about. What about the millennials? They do not approach information security, or even operational security, the same way we do. There's things being shared on Facebook, LinkedIn, all these different things that we would cringe at, right? So how do you educate the millennials into not giving away information that ought not to be out there in public?
that's when you're missing social media, and social environments.
So threats to your supply chain? right? Maybe they're not coming after you because you're locked down tight. Nobody gets through, right? So you just go after the person that supplies your fill in the blank, whatever it happens to be. Surprisingly, these came from the DoD. They're struggling with the same issues that we are. Mission outcome is a little bit different. Okay, I obviously have a bias towards, I have boys and sons in the Navy, so I'm very attuned to let's make sure nothing gets through, nothing gets by, because they're depending on the comms, they're depending on the things that are going on. I look at it probably like you do, a little bit differently, that, you know what, this guy got in, this person got in, they exfiltrated some data, messed up my accounting, I'm down on this, on that, and everything else. A lot different than, I just put an entire battalion at risk. So the outcomes are a little bit different, a little bit maybe perhaps more severe. In some cases, you may view it that way. But the bottom line is, you're facing the same thing that you are. So it should be a lot more, as Michelle Rhodes said, a lot more innovation going on, innovation and information sharing going back and forth. So events like this, love to see this stuff, because you guys have got just as much information to impart to folks like the Department of Homeland Security. What are you running into, and how do we tap your IT, brawn and brain, to get to the next step, to get past this stuff. Okay? So ECS, what is it? What does it do? That's what we're going to take a look at. I bring this up. Everybody has to have a fear, uncertainty, doubt slide in their cybersecurity program, CDC and a protocol. I'm not big on that because I think we already know what we should. Fear of the unknown. We already know we're going to get hit, so that we take that out. The uncertainty, we know we're going to get hit. The doubt, there's no doubt we're going to get hit. So how do we protect? But I throw this up real quickly. You heard Kevin talking again, keynote speaker here. I used this one on April 23rd, 13. This is the event he was talking about last year, into billions. That was the impact. Prior to this, this organization was rated as an amateur, if you will, using low-level techniques to get what they were trying to get done. Pretty big impact for a bunch of amateurs. They didn't have the capacity, didn't have the capabilities, et cetera, to be able to pull that off. June 2014, they pulled off a similar exploit. Only this time they hit routers. They moused over one of the tabs on their website, launched. Pretty low key, pretty simple stuff to do, but it got by the press. Code hosting service, are you familiar with this one? One of the things that Michelle talked about in her opening address was the resiliency of your mission, resiliency of the organization, right? These guys didn't come back. They got in, hackers got in, called them and said, hey, we've got access to your data. Give us the cache, and we shut it down. They decided they were smarter than them, we can beat you to it, we'll lock it down. The hackers figured out what they were trying to do and erased it all. CEO came out a couple of days later and said there's no way to regain any of our customers' information, any of that. We cannot survive. We're shutting our doors. So it's not a matter of resiliency. In that particular case, it's a matter of there's no coming back. So take that to your organization. How do you protect that? What do you do? And we've all heard the horror stories and energy companies and energy lab that was shut down for 6 weeks because there was a malware in the system. They found it. Loaded up the backup. It was in the backup. They kept going backup to backup to backup. And then they finally discovered that hackers had been in there for like 8 months. So every backup they had the malware in it. So it was great for forensic evidence if you could ever find them. But in the meantime, they had to start all over. This one, June. How much credibility do you have? You're all state agencies. How much credibility do you have? And as consumers, how much credibility do you put in a Home Depot, a Target? Does that irritate you that your information's out there? It does me. I get frustrated, especially when I find out that they were told or they should have been paying attention to their systems and they saw it coming in. So how much from that's a consumer. You can say, well, I'm not going to shop at Target. That's just, I can do it. They're carrots. Home Depot, I'll go to Lowe's. There's choices. With your organizations, you have to have that public confidence. You can't let that erode. Correct? I don't see any difference, from my perspective, even though I work 100% federal, I don't see any difference between state and local government and federal in that aspect. If I can't trust my state and local government or my federal government to be able to protect that information, protect the assets, there's nowhere else to go. Don't have any options, okay? Real quickly, I'm going to bring you up to speed on where we're at. MTIPS is one of the OMB mandates. One of the things that we are trying to get within CenturyLink and working with DHS is out of the reactive mode into the proactive mode. In 2007, we had a requirement from the OMB to build MTIPS, Managed Trusted Internet Protection Service. That was a mandate. We responded to an RFI. You guys put out RFIs, statements of work, task orders, whatever it is for your procurement needs. Same as the federal government. What I'm trying to do is get CenturyLink, get DHS to get out of the reactive cycle and get into the, as Michelle put it, the innovation. Let's get ahead of, and let's work with the partnership piece, and you'll see how we've done that a little bit later in cooperation with DHS to build ECS and IPSS. So the other thing I bring this slide up is if you take a look at the top part, that's the federal sector. That's TIC, that's MTIPS, that's going to IPSS. IPSS is the twin for ECS. IPSS is .gov only for the federal government. So they're using the exact tool as ECS, it's just a different instance. Okay? So there's dedicated for state and local, dedicated for federal. At the bottom, as you'll see, in June 2010, the DoD invited us to participate. So we stepped up, we started a pilot, we started to build some things, we went to the lab, we pulled together all the smart guys, said how are we going to pull this off? Here's the services we want to provide. It's got to be bigger, better, faster than anything else that's already out there because it's going to protect the critical infrastructure. So we went to work, we did those piece parts. In 2012, we went from a pilot. We also transferred the ownership of the program from DoD to DHS. All the legal agreements, as you can imagine, I'm really only 23 years old. All this great hair came from working with attorneys and privacy people, and people, as I said, you know, it's a little bit rough. Getting through, our lawyers saying that's proprietary and confidential, and the DHS guys saying that's classified, we can't tell you. So you just kind of sit in a room and stare at each other for a while until you figure out, until somebody blinks, and then you go, okay, we'll give you this, you give us this, we'll figure it all out. Let's build that trust relationship, and I think that's key. You got to be able to trust who you're working with. Dating ECS customers, DHS expanded. DHS expanded it under PPD 21 from President Obama. So we looked at it, we were having good success, great success with the IPSS piece. We rolled out the ECS piece of it, and President Obama looked at it back in and it's still a hot topic, is supply chain management up on the hill. How do we protect it? So if I'm Boeing, you can't get to me, I'm too big, I'm too bad, I got too much, can't get through. I don't need to get through. I go through you supply all my widgets. I'll just hack yours and screw up your manufacturing, screw up your distribution, whatever it happens to be, and then I can't manufacture the rest of what I need to do for whatever effort, whether you're building planes, bombs, whatever it happens to be, or you're delivering water for FEMA. You mess that up, you mess a lot of things up. So I went out to ECS. We had the ECS customers up and online. Again, what the program is all about is that it is a public-private partnership. Watch what's been touted here. Approved commercial CSPs, so that's ourselves and AT&T. DHS, and here's the core, the DHS collects the sensitive classified cyber threat information. ECS is not commercially available, and it's not available to anyone but CIP, 16 sectors. So any of you in this room can apply to be part of this program and take on the protections for ECS. It augments, as I pointed out, this is not a replacement for what you currently have today. It's to move the perimeter out away from hitting your boundary. I was educated, anybody here from the universities, education systems, colleges, universities, you know? I'm not a California native, so I went through the California education system, and I was taught in history class that you always fought the war over there, not over here. So if I can move the boundary out away from me, the farther I can get it out, the further I can strip the bad stuff off of it, the better off I am, right? I don't think that policy has changed, or that from president to president to president. It's always better to go over there. Take care of the issue before it gets here. I think we're seeing that with ISIS and some of the terrorist threat today. Same holds true. All space has increased in the physical realm. Every time you add a node, every time you add another segment to your WAN LAN, every time you add another office, you're increasing the battle space. So how do you protect it? You guys can already do all the blocking and tackling, all the IPS, and maybe you're looking at enhancements, maybe you're looking at doing different things a little bit differently, maybe you segment a little bit differently, maybe you're tagging all your applications. All those things need to continue to happen. This simply augments it and again moves that perimeter out. I don't want the bad guys in my perimeter. So it's an ingress, egress. So I know what's going on inside and outside in this particular case. So CenturyLink's involvement in the program, I'm going to go through this real quick. Obviously, we're one of the 2 fully approved CSPs to provide the service. It is to, again, all of the critical infrastructure providers. So I think I've got a list up here. They may have taken it out because any of your procurement people know that when you award a contract, one of the things you want to see is past performance, right? We're not allowed to say who's in the program, so we don't have any past performance. All right? Only DHS knows who's in there, and of course we do as we turn them up. But so we're the leading provider. The IPSS that I mentioned earlier, which is the .gov version of this, we're the only provider. So we took an opportunity, took a chance on a public-private, because it was brand new for us. We're not used to, we're a carrier. We're used to keeping everything close to the vest. We're not going to tell you that's proprietary. I mean, I can tell you I've been thrown out of a couple places because of, when you tell us how you do your enterprise network. No, that's proprietary and confidential. Those meetings are, okay. Back on the plane early, off we go. Features of the ECS is network-based, inbound email filtering, neutralization, DNS protection. Those are the 2 main features today. As I said, it is evolving. So we are adding capabilities. We just received another request to add 3 more capabilities. We hope to have those in place within IPSS in March. The good news about that is once I implement them, once we get them done in IPSS, we'll flow those right into ECS. So DHS is leading the charge. DHS is saying, here's where we need to go. Here's what we're seeing from the threat vector. Here's our greatest risk to our information infrastructure and our ability to conduct our missions. So here's what we need to build to take care of that. Multiple interface options. We haven't found an email system we can't connect to. Okay? There are security requirements in being able to do so, but we've not run into any issues with anything anybody's throwing at us. Supported by 24/365 by clear trained personnel. Again, the system itself, the instance itself is in a SCIF, and people that are in there, like myself, are glad to get out and actually be in an environment with windows and not spinning locks on the doors. But we do keep them in there for program support. And that is a knock-sock environment, in addition to some of the fun things we get to do in there. Before hockey, that kind of thing. No. So there's a defense, here's the protection of all critical infrastructure. Again, this is PPD 21. This is Obama extending it out and saying, hey, this is critical. It can't be just a .gov. We've got to get it out to our state and local partners. So if you fit in one of these categories, I think you do, then there's a process for you to participate in ECS. Questions, concerns? Am I going too slow, going too fast? Threats? Sir?
I just had a question. Pardon me if I misunderstand, but I thought CenturyLink was kind of a small carrier, and it sounds like you're describing a nationwide or worldwide program. And so I wonder, I don't think you're going around the world placing hardware all over the world. And so is this system that you've developed, is it strictly a software system that lives on other people's hardware? Is that the way it works?
No, and I can't tell you, it resides in a SCIF.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so, and I don't know, probably to a state or federal agency, we may be small. I think we have 46,000 employees now. We're global. So we have, Mike help me here, set up play too much, 76 data centers worldwide.
Okay.
So maybe you're thinking of somebody else.
Yeah.
We just have a local provider in California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not the local. Okay. Everywhere else we are.
Yeah.
Did you want us to be up here? Yeah. So, does that answer your question? So we do have the instances in multiple locations, obviously for redundancy purposes and that kind of thing.
Yeah, you must still have some partners though that make this system functional.
No.
Pretty much on your own.
It's fully self-contained. It's us and DHS.
Okay.
And then the users. And actually, DHS is our partner. We own and operate. We provide the service on their behalf.
Okay, all right. Very interesting.
Yeah. That's about all I can get away with from the lawyers and from the security personnel from DHS. Moves it out into the network, and again, it's clean, strict. Anything that comes up that's on that list of bad things gets pulled. So it never hits your boundaries. Your customer firewall, we get you there. Everything else is within the dedicated CenturyLink secured data set. So this piece is all us and DHS in cooperation to be able to provide this service. Obviously, this is your network where you have multiple, you have single inbound. I think you have, like you said, three ingress egress for internet. That the state, all the state agencies use, is that right? Maybe it's 20. Maybe I'm confused. Okay, I'm thinking of 3. Sorry. Never mind. Questions on this slide? It's about as technical as it's going to get. Hopefully you weren't looking for a drill down into exactly how we do it. I'll be arrested. And you said they were a little bit smaller provider. This is fully meshed security from a CenturyLink perspective. So regardless of the service that you have, this is how we integrate all of the security solutions across the board. So whether you're using piece parts or CenturyLink entirely, in this case I don't think you can because of the local provider issue, but ECS, you want to use, you want not to do the right thing and use another provider, go ahead. But if you want to use
Right, yeah. Well, you've got to have a relationship with level 3 and companies like that.
We're talking about carrier relationships, yeah.
Yeah.
With features like that, sure. We're a carrier.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a huge undertaking. I mean, it's a monster.
That's why I showed you this. It started in 2007 when I was 23.
Yeah.
So, that's right. It takes a long time. The purpose in showing you, obviously, ECS is, it's an enhanced thing, right? So it's we like to think it's rocket science, but in essence it's not. It's an additional layer of blocking and tackling. But one of the things I hope that you get out of this is that it took us this long to get there. So if you're not already talking to DHS, if you're not already talking to each other about how can you help, there's got to be, and I heard security poverty from Michelle on Tuesday. That's a new term. I had not heard that. Well, what is your response? If you're a larger organization, what is your responsibility then if you're a state agency to reach across the aisle and say, we've got all these things going on, and we think we've got it going on, we think we've got it right. We notice that this agency maybe doesn't have the budget, doesn't have the headcount, doesn't have the resource to be able to have a defensive posture as robust as ours. Where is your responsibility in helping eliminate that security poverty, so to speak? Should you not be working together to make sure? It doesn't do any good to have you guys, one of you can't get in, just can't get in. But the other 15, they do, and they come in a back door because you guys are connected one way or the other.
One of the things that may help expand the scope of awareness about who CenturyLink is and what we do, we're one of 2 vendors that provide network services to the federal government. One of 2, right? We're one of the winners of several different categories here in California under the CalNet 3 competitive bid process. One of the categories that we won, managed internet security category. So this is intended to be an overlay to those kinds of services to push that defensive perimeter further out than what was previously available. So we play in many big spaces, and we're looking to share this intelligence and share the service with you folks.
Up in the top left corner here, you have the ECS, and to the right you have NBS. That's a lot of the blocking and tackling, the fundamental pieces. You've got boxes on your endpoint security in your network today. We took MTIPS and we said, what's the commercial version? And we created NBS. We made it bigger, better, faster. And so NBS is an offshoot of MTIPS. So we're taking what we've learned, lessons learned, we're taking the services and hardening them to a federal level, and then flowing them to state and local civilian agencies, if that makes sense. So one of the things is this, as I said, this is an evolving thing. We've got task orders, we've got requests to add 3 or 4 more capabilities in 2015. One of the things we're testing right now is taking the ECS and running it through the NBS. So you can deploy both. So in CalNet, if you use network-based security, again, you're moving it out, you're moving that perimeter out away from your own. So you've got all the common characteristics. You've got firewall, you've got anti-spam, URL filtering, et cetera, and then you add DNS, advanced email and DNS. Those are the 2 main threat vectors. And if we can combine those 2 for you, technically we can. We work with THS to get permission to do it. When we get ready to do that piece, you can contribute, and you can, again, harden your infrastructure that much more. Make sense? You guys are, I know it's like 1:30, you guys are right after lunch, it's like, okay. I bet we should have gone to the IED one, there's a lot of noises. Keep us awake over there, this guy's droning. All right.
So what's the pricing like?
What's that?
What's the pricing like?
I'm not a sales guy, I can't tell you that.
No. So, but it's competitive with the other providers?
Competitive with the other provider?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't beat the other provider.
No.
Because we're first to market. So yeah, it's in, and the pricing component too, it depends on what kind of, what do you have?
Services.
Yeah, what do you have? I mean, those are the 2 services, so the services are there. What are we connected to? How are we getting connected? What else is there? This is THS's program website. Anyone that wants to participate in the program, again, as part of that critical infrastructure provider, goes through a vetting process with DHS. They apply. CenturyLink itself is obviously a critical infrastructure provider. We use ECS. We are on ECS ourselves as the provider and as a customer. So our corporate entity is using ECS. But you go through a vetting process. Once you get an approval number, as it were, your gold star from DHS, yes, you are, in fact, who you say you are, yes, you are eligible for this program. We reach out to you, you reach out to us, and we say, okay, let's set up. We begin discovery process of, to your point, how are we going to connect it? What type of, there's 3 different options for your email piece. How is your DNS routed? How are you coming in? What's behind some of that, the piece parts there that we're going to need to accommodate for, either on your end or our end, to make sure that we can pull up the tunnels, put things in place. And then we'll go through a testing period, make sure everything's good to go. We assign a program team. There's a full-time program team. We'll assign a program manager to you to work through whatever issues you may have, or challenges you may have, making that connection, doing the testing. And then we'll decide on a cutover date, start moving the traffic over. And we'll have rollover plans. I don't know if you guys are familiar with being IT, you guys know. 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes to test some of these things out. This is not, hey, call me on Monday, we'll have it up on Friday. This is a very complex thing. We need to get it right. There is no one effect. So it is a lot of hand-holding, a lot of working back and forth, and again, a lot of information sharing between CenturyLink and your agency. So we get it set exactly the way it needs to be set, and it flows precisely the way you indicate that it should flow. Questions on the vetting process? Or? All right. Put your thinking hats on. Do we have a malware problem? Do we have an adversary problem? Always an adversary problem, right? It's always called the Internet of Things. For me, it's the Internet of People because those things are always attached to somebody, right? My device sitting on my, my dresser at night is not attacking anything. Right? Yeah, you got never shot anybody, right?
Malfunction.
Must have been a malfunctioning thing, okay? One of the things that I heard Michelle say is that California is known for innovation. Okay? You guys are leading edge. I grew up here. I moved out to Colorado in '95. So all my family's here, everybody's here. Just as a quick, since we're on camera here, Russ could maybe move this down to like San Diego next year. Awesome. Just my own feedback. Who's with me? But I think it was innovative then, it is now. So the challenge that you have is how, whether it's ECS or another program, whether it's using the tools, the security tools on CalNet, whatever it be, how are you going to take the innovation to the next level? Because your adversary is not waiting for purchasing you. They're not waiting for you guys to figure out, okay, they figured that piece out. They're figuring out new and interesting ways all day long, all night long, getting hammered. I sat with a CIO. Some of the CIO that I'm not going to, who has 5 different networks, segmented networks. He gets hit over 100,000 times a day. His job is horrible. I wouldn't want that. I mean, you just, I don't know how many times you guys hit a day. That's a lot of hits every single day on those networks. So it's not a matter of if, as they say in the physical security world, but a matter of when, right? Mm-hmm. So how are you going to get innovative? Who are you going to work with? If you're not going to work with CenturyLink, you're lost, but hey, if you're not going to work with CenturyLink, are you going to work collaboratively between one another and get innovative? And then get beyond the innovative and go to aspiration and inspiration, right? Who was it that said, it was your privacy officer that said, hey, we set the tone and we set the mark for breach notification. Is that correct? I don't know. I'm not from California. I don't pay attention to the breach notification. I'm too busy in the weeds figuring out what happened on the breach. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay. That's one. What's the next one going to be? Which one of your agencies is going to be the front runner for figuring out how to block X, how to get around Y, how to educate your people to the point where you're not getting breached? 64% of the companies getting breached. How long are you guys? Or are you away from being breached, or have you already been breached? Questions? I've tried to get done as quickly as I could. Hopefully you found this informational, educational, and most of you are still awake. So, questions on the ECS program, how to get involved, who to contact, pros, cons. Appreciate you letting me back in the state. No? Well then, thank you very much for, again, allowing me to work this with you. I appreciate it, and let us know how we can help.